Thank you very much. I thank the organizers. I'm delighted to be here. And I thank you for the topic you've given me. It's a very interesting topic. I have no doubt that we need to rediscover India, but we need to pose the question, which India do we want to rediscover? This August, you celebrate the 70th anniversary of your independence. An independence that was won by the masses of India, bringing the mightiest empire in the world to its knees. That was how your independence was won. But this August 15th, that you will celebrate the independence with an establishment in which there is not a single person connected in any way, directly or through family, with the freedom struggle. This is the first time you will be in such a situation. Yet, there are a few hundred freedom fighters left, several of them in Kerala. Okay? They're in their 90s, mid-90s. Only in September, as late as September last year, I discovered 9 of them in Satara district of Maharashtra. They're a fascinating group in Indian history called the p.sainath. Tufan as in typhoon. That is the whirlwind army. In 1943, many different parts of India rose in individual revolt against the British Raj and declared independence. Koraput in Odisha declared independence. Midnapur in West Bengal declared independence because the British were trapped in World War II and they were in a very bad state. The British were not able to crush the revolts. Hitler was on the verge of entering England in 1943. So, Midnapur, Koraput, Chittagong and Satara, many places took arms and rose against the British Raj. In those days, Satara Principality was a very large area. It included Sangli, Satara, other places. And there was a wave of uprising amongst peasants and landless laborers. A man called Nana Patil led the uprising against the British in Satara. By the way, Nana Patil in the 1950s became one of the earliest post-independence presidents of the All India Kisan Sabha. So Nana Patil led this uprising and they actually controlled Satara for 3 years. They did not allow the British to function inside Satara. It was called the Prati Sarkar. The Prati Sarkar, and it was also known as the Patri Sarkar for another reason, but not important here. The Prati Sarkar had an armed wing. The armed wing was the Tufan Sena, the typhoon army, the whirlwind army. The Tufan Sena was led by a young man who is now 94, alive, very conscious, very alert. His name was Ramchandra Shripati Lad. But he was known as Captain Bhav, which means Captain Elder Brother. He was known as Captain Elder Brother. In Marathi, Bhav is like Dada in Bengali. So he was known as Captain Elder Brother of the Tufan Sena. And in 1943, June 7, the anniversary is coming, and we are going to observe this anniversary in Maharashtra. They led the greatest attack in the greatest train robbery ever in Asia. They attacked the Pune Miraj goods train and looted the payroll of the entire British Empire for Bombay Presidency. The Bombay Presidency, do you know that Bombay Presidency included Dubai and Kuwait and all these states? They were all ruled from Bombay Presidency, okay, under the British rule. They lifted the payroll of the entire presidency of Bombay and distributed the money to starving peasants and laborers. 1943 was the year of the Bengal famine. It was affecting the whole country. Food prices were impossible to afford. Okay? Food prices were impossible to afford. So Bengal famine was affecting the whole country. Food was being sent to Bengal. Everybody was going hungry. The Tufan Sena attacked the train, looted the train, gave the money to the starving peasantry and the workers. Since September, I have had conversations with 8 or 9 surviving Tufan Sainiks. One of them has died in the last 3 months. My dear friends, in 5 years, no freedom fighter is left alive. A history has gone. Which India do you want to rediscover? You know, one of them told me, after the demonetization, in December I spoke to him, he is about 95 years old. And he told me about, when I asked him his opinion on the demonetization, he said, you know, in our time, we looted the banks and gave the money to people. Now you people, you are looting the people and giving the money to the banks. So that was the attitude of the freedom fighters. One of Ramchandra Shripati Lad, we made a film on him. You can see it on 5 minutes film on People's Archive of Rural India, which is what I now run. Free website, no subscriptions, no advertisements, nothing. In that he makes one profound statement, which I think should be the starting point of rediscovery. He says, I was proud to be part of the freedom movement. I was proud of my role. I am proud even now of my role in my country's independence. But I will tell you one thing, he said. We fought for independence and freedom. We achieved independence. We fought for independence and freedom, but we achieved independence. Freedom still eludes the masses. That is what Captain Bao, Captain Elder Brother, founder of the Tufan Sena, has to say. At 94, he's thought about it. He says, we fought for freedom and independence, but we got only independence. I think that is a starting point for rediscovery. Second, if I have spent 15-20 years talking to old freedom fighters, what did you fight for? What was your purpose? Was it only to throw out the British? There were one or two who said our fight was against the British. But 90% of them, more than that, say, no, our fight was not for an independent society, but a good society. We fought for a good society. Okay? And those are the principles that you find in the directive principles of state policy in the Constitution of India. It is time to rediscover those principles. The right to work, the right to food, the right to nutrition, the right to shelter, the right to education. These are the directive principles of state policy, okay, which we have forgotten. There's a serious need to rediscover those. Look at India 2017. In 2014, the government of India published the data of the socio-economic caste census. You know that, SECC. Government census, which took 2 years. Socio-economic caste census. The data on caste has not been published. They're very frightened to publish that because of the kind of controversies that will come with it. But the data on incomes, economy, that has been published in socio-economic terms. What does it show you? After 20 years, when you boast 8% growth, 7% growth, 75% of rural families in India, that is 3 out of every 4 households, 70% of the population is rural India. 75% of the rural households, the main breadwinner takes home less than 5,000 rupees. Less than 5,000 rupees per month. After 70 years of independence. The main breadwinner takes home less than 5,000 in 3/4 of rural households. What about 10,000? Suppose we raise the bar, 10,000. 90% of rural households, main breadwinner takes home less than 10,000. It's not my number, it's Government of India's number, socio-economic caste census of India. Now, it also, what is the percentage of rural households where the main breadwinner of the family takes home more than 10,000 rupees? 8%. 8%. But if we divide those into caste groups, Dalits and Adivasis, less than 4%. Less than half the rest of the country. Now, who are the Dalits and Adivasis in which family the main breadwinner takes home more than 10,000? Government servants, mainly. Or those working in the railways or in the banks or in, other transportation, state-linked services. And those jobs are reducing very fast. You have lost well over 1 million, maybe 2 million jobs in the public sector and government, railways and government-related jobs. They're closing. But this was the picture of rural India from the socio-economic caste census, which said 52% of rural Indians still derive their basic income, major income, from casual manual labor. Now, this is the great achievement of 25 years of growth. Okay. We need to rediscover what is the meaning of growth. Is it growth for the sake of growth? Is it growth for the sake of justice? Is it growth for the sake of equity? Is it growth for the sake of the benefit of all or of few? Professor Prabhat Patnaik put it so beautifully. He said, it is not enough to have growth with justice. You must have growth through justice. That is the only growth that is sustainable. But in the neoliberal world, growth is an end in itself. It's a goal in itself. The famous American ecologist, one of the really famous ones, he said very beautifully about growth. Growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell. Cancer cell keeps growing 10%, and the faster it grows, the sooner you're dead. Okay, so growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell. You have to decide what you want your growth for. You see, let me put it another way. The present understanding and obsession with growth numbers. Now, we have changed our entire system of deciding what is growth, so that you're trying to show 7% growth when it is less than, it's about 5%. Anyway, if you want to delude yourselves, you can delude yourselves. But let me put it, what is the aggregate of economic activity which we call growth? Please let me show you a very simple example of how stupid that obsession is. If I put up a new building tomorrow, That is growth. It adds to GDP. Okay? I mean, if I put up a new building, huge new building, it adds to your GDP. By the way, the activity involved, if I demolish the building, that also adds to your GDP. Then also there is growth. If I rebuild the building, there is addition to GDP. If I demolish it a second time, there is a further addition to GDP. Okay, there is growth. We can endlessly demolish, and you see in 2003, you know which was the fastest growing economy in the world? Afghanistan. Why? Because in 2002 the United States had bombed Afghanistan to bits. If you build 2 buildings and 1 railway, the growth doubled in Afghanistan. GDP doubled. Right? You built 30 kilometers of railroad and 2 hospitals. GDP was, and out of the growth of Afghanistan, which was 23% growth in 2002-03, 60% was cultivation of opium, poppy. What is the composition of growth? But this neoliberal obsession with this word, that is a very foolish. David Attenborough, the great naturalist, he put it so beautifully last year. David Attenborough was listening to it. He said, we are living in a planet where there is a serious resource crisis. We are running out of resources. Oil is not going to last another 50 years. We are in everything is finite. All our resources are finite, but our economists want infinite growth. So he said, finally David Attenborough said, in a very finite planet, if you believe in infinite growth, you are either an idiot or an economist. Okay, that was David Attenborough's call. You are either an idiot or an economist. So this is something that we need to, rediscover what economy is, what markets are, what growth is. Do markets exist to serve people, or do people exist to serve markets? We can today have discussions and in-depth analysis of economy without once mentioning people. Because we have separated people from economy and separated mass interest and mass welfare from growth and economics. Economy is doing well when the stock market is doing well. Others can be doing. Can I point out to you that after the tsunami, I wrote about it then in the Hindu. After the tsunami, 11 countries were affected by the tsunami of December 2004. Including our home state of Tamil Nadu was very badly, worst affected. But 5 countries were seriously affected which had stock exchanges. India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Malaysia. These were the 5 out of those 11 countries that had serious stock exchanges. What happened after the tsunami? Within 1 week of the tsunami, all the stock exchanges reached record heights. Why? Money, reconstruction, rehabilitation, contracts, cement, steel, aid, rehab. Okay. How much money was made out of how much misery? Seldom was so much money made by so few out of the misery of so many. So understand what this market means. We need to rediscover a different India which cared for people, which worried about its fellow citizens, did not go about killing each other. That's the thing. Now coming back to income. What is the income of the average farmer household in India? Would anyone like to guess? There is a government figure from National Sample Survey Organization 2013 and published in 2004. Income of the average farmer household 5 members from all sources. That means farming activity and non-farming activity. How does farming function in India? Whether in Bihar or in Maharashtra or UP, one brother will stay on the farm, eldest brother will stay on the farm. One brother will go and work as a school teacher in another place. One might become a small insurance, LIC policy seller. At the time of harvest, they all get their share of produce and they are all making remittances into the farm. That is not just India, even in United States it functions like that. Small farmers live on farming income plus non-farming income. They have to make money from other sources also. From all sources, average farming household income, monthly income of average Indian farm household, 6,426 rupees. Which means per capita 1,300 rupees, less than 1,300 rupees per capita per month in the farmer household. Now, please understand that even this 6,400 figure is a misleading figure. Why? On the one hand, there is Kerala and Punjab, where it is more than 10,000. On the other hand, there is Chhattisgarh and East UP and Bihar, where it is 3,500, 3,000. Parts of Chhattisgarh where it is less. So you are getting neither an apple nor an orange. You are getting an average of Kerala, Punjab, and you are getting an average of Chhattisgarh, Bihar. So this is the situation of the farm household income. While all this, in the last, according to the Government of India's figures, National Crime Records Bureau, in the last 21 years, in your country, 310,000 farmers have committed suicide. 310,000 farmers. Okay? 2/3 of those are in 5 states, now 6. Number 1, richest state, Maharashtra. Followed by number 2, Karnataka. Number 3, Andhra Pradesh. Then Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. But now Telangana, because they are separate states. These states accounted for in 1990, in year 2000, they accounted for 50% of total suicides, farmer suicides. In 2014, they accounted for 72% of total farm suicides. Plus, they were growing elsewhere. So what do we do as a nation? We change the methodology so that the number of suicides are going up, but numbers are coming down. By redefining who is a farmer, who is a tenant farmer, who is an agricultural laborer, all sorts of... See, we are not rediscovering ourselves, we are deluding ourselves as a nation. Okay? The kind of hardship that the poor are seeing, at the same time this has happened. India in 2000, in India in year 1990s, did not have even a single dollar billionaire, not one. India in 2016 has $94 billionaires. It has a rural population. It has a rural population where 90% of households, the main breadwinner earns less than $150, but it is ranking 4th in the world in the number of dollar billionaires, more than Japan, more than UK, more than all the Scandinavian, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland put together. We have twice the number of dollar billionaires that they do, more than Australia, sometimes, some years more than Germany. Once or twice they come ahead of us, but above us are USA, Russia, China. These are the countries in ahead of us. So the country that ranks fourth in the world in dollar billionaires ranks 130th in the world in Human Development Index of the United Nations. As our number of dollar billionaires has gone up, our performance in human development, other countries have overtaken us. Every single Latin American country is ahead of us. Even Bolivia, the poorest, is ahead of us in human development. The only Caribbean country that is behind us is Haiti. They've had civil. Sri Lanka has had civil war for 35 years. Okay? They are 25 places ahead of you in human development. Why? We need to rediscover the discoveries of Gautama Buddha. We need to rediscover those issues where a society, what happens when a society encourages, celebrates inequality. The greatest problem, the greatest, fastest growing sector in India is not IT, it is inequality. Okay? If you look at the major countries of the world, 130 countries or so, even if you looked at 130 countries, in no country in the world has inequality grown faster in the last 15 years. There are countries where inequality is greater than in India. Russia today, post-Soviet Russia, is a more unequal country than India. But the rate of growth of the inequality has been stunning. Okay? It's been absolutely stunning. To give you an idea, today the top 1% of 15-20 years ago, the top 1% of Indian population owned 26% of total household wealth. In 2016, the top 1% of the Indian population owned 58.4% of total household wealth. Total wealth, 1% owned. What is the figure in the USA? 42.2%. Even the most unequal capitalist country called the United States, the top 1% owns less of total wealth than the top 1% of India. You can get all these figures from Credit Suisse, the multinational bank. Every year they publish a report, Global Wealth Data Book. It's free, it's online, and to save you the trouble, I will tell you that 2015 and 2016 report, you'll find the table with India on page 148 or 149. So I'm saving you that research trouble. You can just go and check the figure, verify the figures by yourself. That is the kind of situation. So you've built unbelievable palaces and wealth and islands of incredible luxury. On the other hand, 98 million farm households, 98 million people who are farmers, their per capita income is less than 1,300 according to the Government of India. Average, monthly. Or farm households if you like, because they don't give you the individual figure. 6,426 a month, $95 US. That's it. $95 US. That is the figure. So you have this kind of situation. Why has that happened? The preamble of your constitution, uses the words for justice, social, economic and political. It is not an accident that it says just social first. Social, economic and political. That is a very considered choice of words that the founders of your country used. I want to tell you one thing. November 25th, 1949, Baba Saheb Ambedkar made a speech in the Constituent Assembly when he handed over the draft Constitution of India. He handed over the draft Constitution of India to the Constituent Assembly. He said, I give you this document in some trepidation. I am fearful because today we have entered a world of paradoxes. This is a phenomenal speech by Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly. He says we have entered a world and a life of paradoxes. In politics we have democracy. In society and economy there is no democracy. In politics we have equality. In society and economy there is no equality. One day he warned the assembly, the tension between your political democracy and the lack of democracy and equality in society and economy, that tension will cause your political democracy to explode. We are living in that era. What that man said, how many years ago? 68 years ago. Eh? What he said in 1949, November 25th speech in the Constituent Assembly. You have that reality confronting us today. In the last 25 years, all our policies have been directed towards growth for the top 1% or the top 10%. Some of us benefit from it also. There is a certain trickle down to some of our social groups. We may benefit from it. But is that society as a whole? That what Ramchandra Lad, Sripati Lad said, we fought for independence and freedom, we achieved independence. Okay. In the last 25 years, the national, we had a survey, we had an institution called National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau in Hyderabad. It is the only institution which keeps longitudinal data across decades, that is comparable data. In a 2012 report which we got to know of last year or in 2015, the National Institute of the National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau said rural Indians are eating 540 calories less, 25 milligrams of calcium less, 5 milligrams of calcium less, 25 milligrams of magnesium less, several hundred grams of milk less than 40 years ago. This is coming from the public sector government body, National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, which is a very large institution in Hyderabad. How did the government respond to this? It closed down the bureau. No bureau, no malnutrition. So last year, in 2015, the government of India shut down the national farm suicides. Figures were rising. So what did they do? They caught the NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, forced them to accept whatever statements the state governments were giving and started screwing up the numbers and therefore lying about the numbers of farmers' suicides in your country. Let me show you how the lie is made. It's very simple. One, they break up the figures. Earlier you used to get only figure of farmer. Now they they put various categories. Farmer, tenant farmer, agricultural laborer. They are trying to say that all these years the figures included all these people. It didn't. And now we are separating them so you can see the numbers are falling. Naturally, if you divide one category into three, numbers will fall. But when they say tenant farmer, in India, it is very difficult to tell the difference between tenant farmer and agricultural laborer because there is no document. Yeah. If I am an agricultural laborer and I take 3 acres on land from Perumal Murugan, that's because we don't sign any agreement, we don't sign any document. His father knew mine, his family knows mine, we are from the same village, word of mouth, he gives me the land. He will not give me any document because he is afraid that tomorrow I will claim the land. Right? Now when the tenant farmer commits suicide, the police go to investigate. They will say, in the north they will say, Patta Dikao. In Maharashtra they will say, Sat Bara Dikao. That is the title deed. Now as tenant farmer, my name is not on any document. So they will register me as, in the suicides, as agricultural laborer. So when they did this, for the first time in 2014 data, number of agricultural laborers committing suicide was much higher than farmers, because all the tenant farmers had become agricultural laborers. Then they put another 8-9 methodologies to change the figures. It's very hilarious. The number of farmer suicides in 2014, see, in every economic table you have male, female, rural, urban, and finally you have a column called others. Others column. Now, in 2014 data, farmer suicides fall by 50%. Suicides by others goes up by 200%. Because they have hidden all the bodies in the others column. Karnataka decline by 48%, increase in others 245%. The 6 major states average increase in others suicides is 130. Nowhere in any table will any researcher will accept this. You've got to be a complete moron to accept that kind of stuff. Yeah. So this is how, that is how, whether it's on GDP data, growth rate data, farm suicides data, nutritional data, we are solving the problem by killing the data. The farmers are committing suicide. We are committing murder of the data. That is what we are doing. So you have, and why has that situation come about? 25 years of policies that have been made in the interest of corporations, not communities. In the interest of profits, not of people. In the interest of the super rich, not in those struggling for survival. If you take 1991 census and 2011 census, the number of full-time farmers in your country, the population has fallen by 15 million. That means a full-time farmer in India is called main cultivator in the census. The main cultivator is somebody who cultivates a plot of land, not necessarily owns it. He can be a tenant farmer. He cultivates a plot of land for at least 180 days in the year. That means your main income is coming from that. Otherwise, every corporate executive can be a farmer because he's got a grape vineyard in Nashik which he goes and sees on Saturday and Sunday. Right? Now in that main status of farmer, it fell to 98 million in 2011. That means you are losing full status farmers at the rate of 2,000 per day. You are losing farmers at the rate of 2,000 per day. Where are they going? You can see in the next column. As the number of farmers is coming down, number of agricultural laborers is going up. So people who were once farmers are now landless, agricultural laborers with little or no land at all. So these are the different issues of the crisis. Yet, to pull it together, it was your crisis, we all know about that. you have a water crisis. Mega water crisis. They call it drought. It's not drought. Even if you have 10 good monsoons, you have a water crisis because of the way we are using our water. Okay. Water is being there are 5 major diversions of water, from rural to urban, from livelihood to lifestyle. Okay. Last year, when all of you were reading about the great drought of Maharashtra, Marathwada's worst drought in 70 years, the women standing in the queue to the tanker, the women whom I interviewed and other journalists interviewed, they were paying 45 paisa to 1 rupee per liter, this much water. For 1 rupee, they were paying 45 paisa to, for 1 liter, 45 paisa to 1 rupee per liter. In the same Marathwada, 24 beer factories get water at 4 paisa per liter. And that is a big improvement. For 28 years, they got it at 1 paisa per liter. Then somebody took them to court and won a big victory, 4 paisa. Now all your bottling companies, all these bottle people, they also pay 4 paisa per liter. Some of them don't pay anything because it's illegal. In many places there are illegal bottling factories. But that woman who is standing 6 hours, 8 hours every day looking for water, from searching from one tap, from one tank, from one pond, from the public's tank, from the municipal's tap, she pays 1 rupee per liter. At this time of the year, she'll be paying that. The cost is much more than 1 rupee per liter because she is losing so many hours of productive work. What would she have earned in those 6 hours, 8 hours that she has wasted on the thing? These are also questions that you need to consider. I believe there is a far greater India to discover. An India where ordinary people joined hands and brought down the greatest empire in the world. They said sun never sets on the British Empire. The people of your country destroyed that empire. They destroyed that empire. Look at the kind of freedom fighters, media, journalists that you produced. A Gandhi, an Ambedkar, a Bhagat Singh writing under assumed names letters to the press from wherever he was, whether he was underground or in jail, in prison, about to die, who was writing constantly. There have been great things in India too. As I said yesterday at the award function, from late 2015 to early 2016, in rediscovering, we need to rediscover the India of tolerance and humility, the India of dignity, because both Indias have always existed. There has been an intolerant India always, as evidenced in the caste system and the untouchability, that has always been there. And there is another India, there is an India of the Buddha, of Ashoka, of a Gandhi, of an Ambedkar. Which India do we want to rediscover? There was the India of the Ramchandra Shripati Lad, of the freedom fighters. Which India do we want to rediscover? In the crisis, whether in every one of these crises has a solution. We have to understand that climate change is not a joke. It is a very serious issue. Many progressives don't take this seriously. We have to understand, we have to discover what is India's ecosystem? What is India's environmental system? Kerala threw up the first great organization to look at that in the KSSP. You need to rediscover those roots. We need to rediscover that country. Okay? I will just mention one more thing and I will leave you with that. When you mentioned and when you referred to Kudumbashree, why is Kudumbashree so special? One, it's special because 4 million women think it is special. It's got a membership of 4.2 million. When so many other progressive organizations are declining Kudumbashree has been growing. Obviously, because it is delivering something of value to people. And some of the greatest things that I have seen, if I look at Kerala, you people in the last 100 years, steadily you have destroyed food crop land and increased cash crop. And that cash crop is what caused you all the problems also in the suicides. 4/5 of farmer suicides are cash crop farmers. Very few paddy farmers or food crop farmers commit suicide. Why? Because, see, I was in 2002, 2003 in Kerala when the great vanilla explosion came. I begged my friends, I have millions of friends in Kerala, I begged them, don't shift to this, don't shift to this, it's too risky. They said, no, look at the price, $100 per kilogram, those days 4,000 rupees per kilogram, not quintal. What is the price today? 68 rupees, 70 rupees per kilogram. Now you shift from paddy. At those days, 2003, 1 acre of paddy in Wayanad. The name Wayanad meant Vayalnad, paddy land. You can't find 1 acre of paddy. It's all cash crop, cardamom. It is, pepper, coffee, rubber. Now, Vayalnad had no Vayal at all. But when you shift from 8,000 rupees per acre, you shift to vanilla at 1,40,000 rupees for the first year, you are incurring an increase of 15 times. In the same period, neoliberal policy shifted bank credit from farmers and peasants to corporations. So, credit went away from, say, Maman to Malia. It shifted from that small farmer to the big racketeer. And so farmers started taking again money from the money lender. In the 70s and 80s, after bank nationalization, the power of the money lender came down. Now it is back fully. They are not getting that credit from the banks. So there are many other items where I don't have the time for that, but we created a crisis. The Kudumbashree women in your villages of Kerala, today they have restored food crop. They are the ones who are growing food crop. How are they growing it? They are landless women. They are taking land on lease. 18 or 20 women coming together as a group, taking land on lease, growing food crop, growing it with organic methods or with low chemical methods, not using much chemicals. Do you know what is the most beautiful thing I have seen in Thrissur in the last transformation I have seen in Thrissur in the last few years? Because the paddy fields are back, the migratory birds have come back from Siberia, from elsewhere. For 30 years, those birds were not seen in Kerala. Now they're coming back because the paddy fields have come back. The paddy has come, those insects have come, the birds are back. Can you put a monetary value on that? Can you put a monetary value on the return of the migratory bird? But which tells you that your ecosystem is now again has a chance of being healthy. So I think that there are many great, in Edamalakudi, in Idukki, the Kudumbashree electrified the village which for no government had done for decades. You know how they did it? They formed a Toriyai Sangam, their own headload porters union of women, and challenged the monopoly of the male headload porters union. Then they passed resolution in the panchayat giving the contract to themselves for getting solar panels. These women are all Adivasi women. They are weighing about 40 kgs, 35 kgs. They are about 4 feet 2 inches. Through the forest, they carried 240 solar panels on their head. Each panel weighs 9 kilograms. Each woman carried two panels. That means each woman was carrying half her body weight. Without putting a scratch on those panels, they came and put a solar panel on every hut, every Adivasi hut in Edamalakudi. 240 households, they put one on everything, and they electrified the village. They also passed a resolution and paid themselves wages under NREGS because Kudumbashri controlled the panchayat at that time. Okay. There are great things that they've done. There are great things that can be done. It's there within us. What essentially then we need to rediscover is ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It was informative, knowledge sharing, and also eye-opening. Now there is a 10 minutes for interaction because he has to go back to Dubai. He's in a hurry. So, anybody interested to ask any question, please come forward.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. I'm Sajid.
Yes, Shaji.
My question is, see, in terms of... Stand up.
It's okay, Shaji. Be comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. See, in terms of, democracy, so when I live here actually, around, 11 years. So this place, sitting in this place and looking at our country, see, there were a lot of hopes actually. And in terms of democracy, when we think or when we see around the world, if you look at, to US or any developed democracies, we have better participation actually. We have more reach in democracy. I believe so. I don't know, So, what happened is, like you were telling, after 70 years of practicing that kind of democracy, every election was like a festival. We have not achieved the actual objectives, like economical objectives we didn't achieve, or political objective we didn't achieve. Recently I read an article from, Indra Roy. She was telling we use the force against our own people. And if we look at the northeast or we were using in Punjab.
Yeah, but what is your question?
Yeah, the question is, and now you can see that a new government is in place, Hindutva is rising. What is the future of our democracy? Whether we will be staying or there is a hope, whether India will remain or will we be, able to look into something like, it's predicted that many countries won't be there in the, maybe in the next 20 or 30 years.
Okay. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Shall I take two more questions and then answer together? Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Very informative, eye-opener, the informations. Basically, I have one quick question. What are the remedies we are looking for?
Okay.
It's easily to comment others, to comment ourselves without solutions. But we need a finite solutions.
Okay.
That is very important.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your answer.
One more, and then I can answer those three.
Yes, sir. Just like your question about the rural thing, you are the best person to comment on that one. You explained in detail what is the situation, the indexes and all. But our democracy is a reality. We talk about the 30% votes that the NDA obtained, but above all that, it's a fact. They got the majority and they are in power. And most of the votes came from the rural area. What do you think what was the attraction of the rural population towards the NDA?
Okay.
It's a economical or just a delusion?
Okay. I'll answer these three and then.
One more.
Just a short question. What is the future of left movements in India?
Yeah. Okay. I think that I better start answering them or I'll forget the context. The question number in 1 and 3 there is a commonality about the elections and democracy. Firstly, it depends on what our understanding of democracy is. As I quoted Ambedkar to say, we have democracy in politics, but not in economy and society. And the lack of the latter will destroy the former. That has been happening. What we have had is, till 5-10 years ago, what we have had is not a great democracy, but we have had a thriving electoral democracy. That India has had. We have had a thriving, robust electoral democracy. Even that is changing very fast, very dramatically. You speak about 31% of the NDA. Please know this, that in the history of Indian elections, I have covered as a reporter every election from 1980. In the history of Indian elections, no single party has ever formed a majority with less than 43% of the vote. Okay, but there was a decisive electoral victory with 31% of the vote. It tells me something is seriously flawed in your system. Okay, so here is my point, that, and I will also show you the characteristics of who we are electing. There was a time when India was such a vibrant electoral democracy that an unknown textile worker could defeat Nawal Tata in South Bombay constituency. When Nawal Tata came out into, the only thing the newspapers were willing to discuss is whether the margin will be 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs. An unknown textile worker defeated Tata. That was the greatness of Indian elections. Okay, today, 83% of MPs are crorepati's. On what basis I make the figure? They sign one affidavit. This is their own self-valuation. We started the affidavit system in 2004. Okay. In 2004, 32% of MPs were crorepati's, according to their own disclosure. And when it comes to that, our MPs are very modest, what they disclose. Right? They're very... See, there is no income tax form attached to the affidavit. There is only my claim of what I earned. But according to their own claim, in 2004, number of MPs who were crorepati's were 32%. 2009, 53%. 2014, 82% of all members of parliament are self-declared crorepati's. Now this 82% of crorepati's, they are going to represent 90% of rural families where the main breadwinner takes home $150 a month. Can they represent? Can you sincerely believe in your heart that this can be representative democracy? So I'm saying that situation has changed. In the last 25 years, inequality has grown so great that you are able to... Vijay Mallya bought a seat in the Rajya Sabha. He bought a seat. 1 term, 2 terms, I don't remember. He bought a seat in the Rajya Sabha. Everybody knew he bought it. He bargained for the price with different parties, then he bought one. Okay. Now, when 82% of MPs are crorepati's in a country with the largest number of poor people in the world, who will represent those people? This is a question we need to ask. So something has happened to your democracy. The second issue on the democracy part is this. It's not as if, I don't like this stuff as if we are so unique that nothing that happens in the world applies to us. That's nonsense. Other countries have adjusted their electoral systems to make them better and fairer. We can also do that. You can have a proportional representation system. Look, in UP 2014, voted 0 seat. That is not correct. This is very wrong that such a large section of society is excluded completely from the electoral process. UP 2017, this year, 20% of the state's population who are Muslims are completely excluded from the electoral process, from the outcome of the electoral process. Is it a healthy thing for a democracy that 1/5 of the population of a country of UP, which is the 5th largest country or 6th largest country in the world, 1/5 of the population should be excluded, no tickets, no MLAs, is that democracy? I don't think that's democracy. I don't think that I think it's a very dangerous game we are playing with democracy. When Dalits are excluded, Muslims are excluded, Adivasis are excluded, then there are other games that happen in electoral politics. When I was looking at untouchability for 4 years, I stayed in 14 different states for the Hindu, and I wrote in Sunday magazine. I found that yes, like you were saying, the votes came from the rural areas. You have to look at which classes and who are voting for whom. I found in all the Dalit panchayats, reserved panchayats, I found a very interesting trend. Suppose there were 3 Dalit communities. Suppose there were, say, 200 Ahirwar houses, 180 Chamar houses, and 1 Balmiki household. That one Balmiki would become the Sarpanch, because all the upper castes would vote for him. Reserved seat doesn't mean the vote is also reserved. It only means the seat is reserved. Okay, so suppose there were A, B, C, 3 suppose say Pallar or Parayan or Chakkiliyar, whichever is the smallest community of Dalits, the upper caste will make them the Sarpanch or president because they can control him. If there are 200 households of Pallars, they can't control them. But if there is one Chakkiliyar household, they can control him. So that is how also the voting works, even in reserved caste. I have been saying this for some years, and the Judicial Reforms Committee, one of the reforms committees had also mentioned this. If proportional representation is too radical an idea nobody will accept it, especially those who have come to election with money power, they are not going to accept it. So I am saying to your existing parliament, remedies for you, add 125 seats. Those 125 seats you contest on proportional representation, so that no major section of society is left out. So that different political forces, a political force should not get 18-20% of vote and 0 seat. That should not happen. A political force should not get 24% of the vote and 0 seat. When somebody else, by the way, in 1967, the Congress party got exactly the same 31% that the BJP got. It got much fewer seats. What we call first past the post system, we used to assume 3 candidates. Whoever gets 35%, he wins. Now in each constituency in UP, Rajasthan, there are 6 strong candidates. A fellow has gone to parliament from Rajasthan with 21% of the vote. What democracy is that? We have to address the failure of the electoral system. That is one set of things. Second, on the remedies I will come to. I think that the democracy, election, and I will say this. People keep saying India got a giant mandate. They didn't get a mandate. They got a victory. 31% is not a mandate. They got a victory. That is the issue. So I will say that you can repair the electoral system. You can make sure it is building democracy when you include those who are big excluded. That is democracy. That is my answer to you. Third question rather, before I come to the remedies. What is the future of the left movements in India? That is a question that seriously worries me. Like it worries many others. I seriously and sincerely believe, as a person who was himself the product of such movements, in my college days, my thinking has come, my growth has come from that. I think that all of us need a serious relook and rethinking about a number of issues. I mentioned one of them a few minutes ago when I said, I find so many of my fellow progressives who think that climate change and environment are an imperialist plot. How many of you have experienced this? The younger generation is not like that. They see it as a serious issue. But the older generation progressives are not responding to what those young people are seeing as major issues. Okay? I think that there is a serious call for rethinking some of the giant issues. Look, 1% rise in the seas. I mean, what happens to Chennai? What happens to Goa? What happens to Kerala? You're the first to go. Right? What is the level of your land in Kerala vis-a-vis the sea? I think the left has to take livelihoods and climate change, livelihoods and environment extremely seriously, because you're going to have a gigantic crisis in food production. In Nagpur is called the city of oranges. 0.5% change in the temperature, the sweetness is gone from the orange. 1% change, half the crop is gone. And those changes are coming. We have to understand, for me, one of the paradoxes and tragedies is some of the greatest environmental work and consciousness has come from Kerala. It has come with spearheaded by the KSSP. We need to revive that and make that a mass culture across the country. The second is on issues of development also. When the world is changing, what kind of development model are we looking for? For me, I think there is a limit to which you can emulate and borrow from the capitalist system of development. For me, I think, and again I will say this is a remedy, I think what the women of Kudumbashree are doing, that's development. That is development. Okay? Collaborative effort, collective effort. I think that is going to be, for me, that is a sense of what must be done in land everywhere in the country. People must pool together. Kudumbashree has they have gone far beyond the principle of food security. They've gone far beyond the concept of food sovereignty. The women of Kudumbashree taught me of two new terms. Food justice. If there are 18-20 families in that unit, or in the collective, Sangha Krishi, they call it. If there are 18-20 families, you know what is the principle of food justice? Suppose they grow 100 quintals of food. Before they can sell the surplus on the market, those 18-20 families, their needs must be fully met so that those who produce food do not go hungry. That is food justice. To my mind, that is a superior concept to food sovereignty and food security. Rabindranath Tagore said 100 years ago, there is great wealth to be had. There is great prosperity in food. There is great misery in the production of food. There is great wealth to be made from food, but there is great misery for the producers of food. The women are showing us that. And who are they? They are people who came out of the People's Action Plan, the People's Plan of 2000. They have come out of those backgrounds. They've come out of the left movements only. They are part of the left movements, many of them, but they have managed. One of the great things is that they have managed to rise above sectarian politics. So you'll find the winner of the chief best activist of Kudumbashree in Thrissur is a Congress person. I want to see that. It shows that they have kept their political ideals, but they have risen above sectarianism. That is, I think they are giving all of us a lesson in behavior. Okay. Third, as I said, in the development models, I'm saying that for me, the left movements have to now return to the basics, to the land struggles, to the fighting for the forests for the Adivasis. That's where I think their future lies. That they have to return to to the kind of battles that made Kerala what Kerala is. That's what I think. About the remedies and the solutions and whether there is hope, my friend was asking in that situation where things are so bad. Well, let me first say that things are so bad. Lying to ourselves about a problem is no way of tackling the problem. The remedies, when we talk of remedies, you have to create a basis for the remedies. I'm saying that basis rests in the Constitution of India. If 6 principles of the development of the directive principles of state policy, what is the first paragraph? It says, the economic system shall not be utilized and monopolized for the benefit of the few. That is the first paragraph of directives principle. The economic system shall not be so operated as to monopolize the system for the benefits of the few. It's a very radical statement. The first paragraph is calling for the eradication of inequality. That, by the way, is a great strength of the left, because the left has always fought for the eradication of inequality, but it now has to understand the new forms of inequality and also has to address that. I hope they will. Second, there are 6 principles: right to work, right to shelter. Now, all the advanced nations, Europe, Scandinavia, these places, these are all that have done very well on these 6 principles. Okay? They've done very well on those principles. We need to make those justiciable, enforceable principles. Not a principle, but a fundamental right. That I have the right to food. My child has the right to go to school. Many of the so-called half-baked solutions that were brought in, that is, say, the RTE, right to education, and were brought in by the UPA government, it's a half-baked legislation. Now, you know what they're doing in the schools? They're taking 25% poor children, holding classes for them separately at a different hour. I was asking a little girl, how is it you're going to the schools? How are you coping with these super rich children? She said, I have never seen any of them. They use third-rate teachers, different quality of teaching, different classrooms, everything. They have segregated those children within the school. Right to education means something more than that, and equality means something very different. They have to be sitting in the same class. They have to have the same quality of teacher and teaching. Then we can. So those 6 principles, the right to education, to shelter, to food, to water, fundamental right. Is water a commercial good or a fundamental right? That is what I ask myself when I see that woman paying 1 rupee for a liter and a beer factory paying 4 paisa. I would say start with 6 of those 30 principles. Fight for the realization of those. And we have it. Is there possible, I started by saying yours is a nation where ordinary people brought the mightiest empire in the world to its knees. If they could do it once, if they could win those battles once, they can win those battles again. But I will not say that everything is wonderful and tomorrow it will be even better. No. I think things will get a lot worse before they get better. Because of our unwillingness to change, all of us. But I will also say this, my friend, for whether there is, everybody says this, it's so bleak, what are the remedies, is there something optimistic? I would not have remained in my profession 37 years if I were not optimistic. But there is something called fake optimism and there is something called cynical pessimism. Both are the same. Fake optimist is the one who says, economy is growing at 8%, 9%, in 10 years poverty will be history. How many times have we heard that from how many prime ministers? That is, cynical pessimist is the one who says nothing will ever improve. No. Now, both are achieving the same result. We are both, whether you are cynical pessimist or ultra optimist, the same result is that I don't have to do anything. If nothing will improve, why should I do anything? If everything is so wonderful, why should I do anything? But between fake optimism and cynical pessimism, there is a territory called hope. I live there. Thank you.